My name is NORA COLE. I'm 28 years old. And behind my quiet smile is a story about family, trust, and secrets that refuse to stay buried. 3 days ago, I got a message from my parents. It said, "We no longer trust you." I stared at the screen, my heart sinking, and I simply replied, "Understand." I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I just let the silence speak for itself. But 3 days later, everything changed. My entire family came to me, panicked, pale, and desperate for my help. And in that moment, they realized they had made a mistake that could cost them everything. Before I tell you what really happened, please like this video and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel. And don't forget to subscribe, because the truth I'm about to share will make you question what family loyalty really means. When my phone buzzed that morning, I didn't expect my whole world to fall apart in one line. It was 7:42 a.m. I had just poured my coffee, planning to start work when a notification popped up from my parents' group chat, the same one they used to send Sunday family pictures and Bible quotes. "Mom, Dad, we no longer trust you." That was all. No greeting, no explanation, just those 6 words that cut deeper than anything they'd ever said to me. I stared at the message for a long time. The words didn't feel real at first. I waited, thinking maybe it was a mistake. Maybe there'd be another text saying, "Sorry, wrong chat." But nothing came. So I typed one word back, the only thing that felt right. Me. Understand. Then I locked my phone and sat in silence. You'd think after growing up in a family like mine, I'd be used to things like this, quick to judge, slow to listen. But it still hurt. My parents had always believed the worst version of me whenever something went wrong. As a child, it was broken plates or missing money from Dad's wallet. As an adult, it was, "Nora, are you sure you didn't forget?" Or, "We just find it hard to believe you had nothing to do with this." I'd spent years proving myself, working twice as hard just to be seen as responsible. And yet, with one text, they erased it all. I opened the curtains. Outside, the street was quiet. The morning sun spilled across my small apartment, but I felt cold. My heart raced as 100 questions flooded in. Did I do something wrong? Did I miss a call? I checked my emails, my bank notifications, even my work messages. Everything looked normal, no clues. By noon, my sister Leah still hadn't replied to my texts either. She usually called every day, sometimes just to complain about work or show me a new outfit. But today, nothing. It felt like everyone had silently agreed to shut me out. The next day, my neighbors began acting strange. Mrs. King from next door avoided eye contact when I greeted her. Even the security guard at the gate nodded awkwardly, like he knew something I didn't. Something was spreading. A rumor, a story, I wasn't sure what. But I could feel it tightening around me. By the 3rd evening, I'd stopped checking my phone. I sat by the window, watching the city lights blink in the distance, thinking about how fragile trust really was. One accusation, one misunderstanding, and everything you built with love can vanish. That's when I heard the knock. It wasn't loud, just 3 slow taps on my front door. I hesitated before opening it. On the floor sat a small brown parcel wrapped in plain paper. No delivery man, no sound of footsteps fading away. Just the package. I bent down to look closer. My name wasn't on it. My father's was. To Mr. Jonathan Cole. My hands trembled slightly as I lifted it inside. I didn't open it that night. I just placed it on my table, beside my untouched cup of coffee, and stared at it until the room grew dark. Somehow, deep down, I knew that whatever was inside that parcel was the reason my parents sent that message, and that it would change everything. The morning after the parcel arrived, I woke up to silence, the kind that feels heavy, like the air itself is listening. My phone screen was still empty. No calls, no messages from my parents or Leah. I made coffee but couldn't drink it. My thoughts kept circling back to that brown parcel on the table. I hadn't touched it since last night. It just sat there still and quiet, like it was waiting for me to be brave enough to open it. Before I could, my phone buzzed again. For a moment, my heart lifted. Maybe they'd changed their minds, maybe Mom wanted to talk. But it wasn't her. It was Aunt Naomi. She sent a voice note, her tone sharp and soaked in drama. "Nora, your father is very disappointed. Everyone's talking about what you did. How could you take money from the family business? I told your mother you'd never do something like that, but she said there's proof." Her words struck me cold. "Proof?" I whispered to myself. She continued, "Your dad got a message, a bank screenshot. It shows your name, Nora. You withdrew funds from the company account. I'm shocked, dear. Absolutely shocked." The voice note ended. My hands trembled slightly as I held the phone. I wanted to laugh, but my chest felt too tight. Me? Steal from them? From my parents who already saw me as the black sheep? I opened my laptop and checked my own bank history. Nothing unusual. No transfers, no large payments. Whoever sent that proof had fabricated it. But the truth didn't matter. My parents had already judged me. I tried calling Mom, no answer. I tried Dad, straight to voicemail. By evening, I called Leah. She finally picked up, her voice low and trembling. "Nora, please don't be angry, but they think you took $1.8 million from the company account." I stayed silent. "Dad got an anonymous message with a screenshot showing the transfer under your name. He said it came from your IP address at work." I closed my eyes and exhaled slowly. "That's not possible. Leah, you know what I do for a living. I work with systems like this every day. Anyone can fake that with basic editing." "I know," she whispered, "but they won't listen. Mom cried all night. Dad told her you've been acting secretive since you moved out." I almost laughed at that. I moved out 2 years ago because they wouldn't stop controlling my life. Even my phone password was a debate. "Leah," I said quietly, "did you see the screenshot yourself?" She hesitated. "Yes, but something about it looked strange. The date format was different, like the ones used on foreign systems, not local ones. I tried to tell Dad, but he yelled at me for defending you." That was all I needed to hear. Someone had set me up, and my parents were too emotional to notice. After the call, I sat back on the couch and stared again at that parcel addressed to my father. Whoever sent it knew something. My instincts told me not to ignore it, but I wasn't ready yet. That night, I dreamed of my father's face, cold, disappointed, saying those same words over and over. "We no longer trust you." I woke up before dawn, sweating, my heart pounding. Outside, the street was quiet again. I didn't know it yet, but the person who framed me was closer than I imagined. And the truth, the real truth, was about to force its way to the surface, whether I wanted it or not. By the next morning, I couldn't ignore the parcel any longer. It had been sitting on my table for 2 days now, quiet but heavy, like a secret that refused to stay hidden. I finally walked over, picked it up, and tore the tape. Inside was a small black hard drive, neatly wrapped in brown paper, and a folded white note. The note had only one line written in clean block letters. "You'll need this when they come asking." That was it. No signature, no address, nothing. I turned the hard drive in my hand, feeling my pulse quicken. Part of me wanted to throw it away. I'd had enough drama to last a lifetime. But the other part, the part that worked with digital systems and firewalls for a living, couldn't resist checking. I plugged it into my laptop. For a few seconds, the screen stayed black. Then a folder appeared. Inside were dozens of documents labeled with familiar names: Cole Associates finance logs, account access reports, server history. I opened one file and my stomach dropped. Each log showed failed login attempts, suspicious transfers, and unauthorized access, all coming from the company's internal server. But the IP addresses weren't mine. They were masked and rerouted, pointing to external sources. Whoever had sent this drive knew exactly what they were doing. I realized something else. Whoever framed me had been watching the company's network for months. Just then my phone rang. It was Leah. Her voice was shaky. "Nora, please listen. Something's wrong. The business account just got locked. The bank said there's been suspicious activity and Dad's panicking." I froze. "They think you did it," she added quickly. "Mom's crying. Uncle Raymond is here trying to calm everyone down." I took a deep breath. "Leah, tell Uncle Raymond to check Dad's computer. Look for a file named prooftransfer.jpg. If it's still there, don't delete it. Just tell him to look closely. There was silence for a few seconds. Then she whispered, "Okay." We ended the call. I went back to the drive and scrolled further. There was another folder hidden inside, this time password protected. My curiosity burned. After a few minutes of decoding, I cracked it open. Inside were email exchanges between my father and Mr. Brenner, our neighbor, the quiet man who managed the business server. At first, they looked like normal work-related chats, but then the tone changed. Mr. Brenner had written things like, "I told you this would happen if you ignored me. You don't want the board to know, do you? Next time, don't push me." My throat went dry. Brenner wasn't just a neighbor, he was blackmailing my father. And when Dad didn't give him what he wanted, Brenner decided to destroy the family's peace and my reputation all at once. I felt anger rise inside me, sharp and cold. My parents had doubted me so easily, but the real enemy lived just 2 doors away. Hours later, Leah called again, her voice urgent. "Uncle Raymond found the file, Nora. He said the image metadata doesn't match the account logs. Someone edited it. You were right." I didn't answer immediately. I just stared at the hard drive, the note beside it, and the tiny blinking light on my laptop that showed the drive was still active. Someone had sent me the truth before the family even knew they needed it. But why me? And how did they know I'd understand what to do with it? As I sat there in the quiet hum of my apartment, I realized something simple but painful. Even if I cleared my name, I could never unhear my parents' words. They said they didn't trust me. And deep down, part of me wasn't sure I'd ever trust them again either. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in front of my laptop, the blue light painting my face, as I went through every single file on that hard drive. Each click felt heavier than the last. By 3 a.m., I was sure of one thing. Mr. Brenner, our quiet, polite neighbor, was the one behind everything. There were traces of his actions in every log file, server connections from his home IP, false login entries created with software I'd only seen in professional hacking circles, and encrypted conversations where he spoke in threats disguised as reminders. He'd been blackmailing my father for months. From the files, I pieced it together. It started when Brenner discovered something during his work on the company's internal server, an error that revealed personal transactions my father had made off the business books. Nothing illegal, but enough to embarrass him if it ever got out. Brenner used it to pressure him for extra payments. When Dad finally stopped sending the money, Brenner decided to ruin him another way. He forged the fake transfer receipt, replaced my name with the original account holder's ID, and leaked it anonymously, knowing that my parents would believe it instantly. He didn't even have to lift a finger after that. My parents did the rest. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling, my eyes burning. Part of me wanted to feel relief, that I wasn't crazy, that I hadn't imagined it all. But mostly, I just felt tired. Tired of proving myself. Tired of being doubted. Tired of carrying blame I didn't deserve. At sunrise, I heard a knock at my door. When I opened it, Leah stood there. She looked like she hadn't slept either. Her eyes were red, her hair messy. "Nora," she said quietly. "Uncle Raymond found out who edited the screenshot. It's traced to Mr. Brenner's account. Dad's been trying to reach the bank, but everything's frozen. They can't access their business funds." I stepped aside and let her in. "I know," I said softly. "He's the one behind all of it." Leah stared at me, her eyes wide. "How do you know?" I showed her the files, the messages, the access logs, everything. She covered her mouth, whispering, "Oh my God." We sat together in silence for a long time. I could tell she wanted to say something, but she didn't know where to begin. Finally, she whispered, "They're sorry, you know. They just don't know how to tell you." I smiled faintly. Sorry doesn't change what they believed. She looked down, fiddling with the hem of her sleeve. "They're scared now. Dad said Brenner sent him another message last night, threatening to expose everything if he doesn't pay again. Mom's crying nonstop." I turned to my laptop and closed the screen. Then maybe it's time they learn what it feels like to ask for help. Leah looked at me, confused. 3 days ago, I continued, they told me they didn't trust me. Maybe now they'll understand what that costs. She didn't answer. She just hugged me tightly before leaving, whispering, "Whatever you decide to do, I'll stand by you this time." When she left, the apartment fell silent again. I walked to the window, watching the sunrise bleed across the sky. I knew what I had to do. I printed out the evidence, backed up the files, and prepared a secure report for the bank's cyber unit. I wasn't going to ruin my parents' name, but I wasn't going to protect Brenner either. As I packed everything neatly into a folder, I noticed the original note again, the one that came with the hard drive. "You'll need this when they come asking." I finally understood what it meant. They were going to come, not because they wanted to, but because they'd have no choice, and when they did, I would be ready. It happened exactly 3 days after the message. That morning was quiet, too quiet. Even the air felt tense, like it knew what was coming. I was at my desk finishing a work report when I heard hurried footsteps climbing the stairs. Then came the knock, hard, desperate, familiar. When I opened the door, my entire family stood there. Dad's face was pale and drawn. Mom's eyes were swollen from crying. Leah stood slightly behind them, clutching her phone like she wanted to disappear. Behind them, Uncle Raymond waited silently, his expression calm but worried. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Dad finally said, his voice breaking, "Nora, we need your help." I didn't move. I just looked at him, at the man who had once taught me that trust was everything, yet had so easily taken it away. Mom stepped forward, her lips trembling. "It's Mr. Brenner," she whispered. "He's threatening to leak company data. The bank froze our accounts. We can't access anything. He sent a message saying you already know what's happening." I nodded slowly. "He's right, I do." They exchanged confused glances. I motioned for them to come inside. The living room felt smaller with everyone standing there, guilt hanging in the air like smoke. I went to my desk and pulled out the folder I'd prepared, the printed reports, the chat transcripts, and the proof of Brenner's blackmail. I placed it on the table. "Everything you need is here," I said quietly. "He's been using the company's internal system to extort Dad. When Dad refused to pay, Brenner faked a transfer in my name. He knew you'd believe it." Leah let out a shaky breath, whispering, "Oh my God." Dad picked up one of the pages, his hands trembling. He read in silence, his face changing with every line. Mom pressed a hand to her mouth as if holding back tears. Uncle Raymond finally spoke, his tone steady. "This explains everything. Brenner's the one the cyber unit has been tracking. He's already on their radar." Dad looked up at me. His eyes, once full of anger, now held something else. Shame. Regret. "Nora," he said softly, I don't know how to ask you to forgive us. We should have listened. I should have listened." I didn't answer immediately. I just watched him. For years I had waited for those words, imagined them, rehearsed what I'd say if they ever came. But now that they had, all I felt was a quiet ache. "You didn't even ask," I said calmly. "You believed a stranger before your own daughter. That's what hurt the most." Mom began to cry. "We were scared, Nora. We thought—" "I know," I interrupted gently. "You thought I was capable of anything but telling the truth." No one spoke for a long moment. The room was heavy with guilt and silence. Finally, I handed the folder to Uncle Raymond. "Give this to the authorities. I've already backed up everything. Once Brenner's arrested, the accounts will be unfrozen." Dad opened his mouth to speak, but I stopped him with a small nod. "You don't have to say anything. Just don't forget what this felt like." As they prepared to leave, Leah lingered behind. She hugged me tightly and whispered, "I'm proud of you." After the door closed, I sat alone on the couch. The same phone that once shattered my peace buzzed again. I looked down. A new message appeared, from the same unknown number that had started it all. She handled it better than expected. I stared at the screen for a long time. My heart beat slowly, steadily. Whoever had been watching us was still out there. But this time, I wasn't afraid, because I finally understood something. Trust isn't about proving yourself to others. It's about knowing your truth, even when no one else does. I turned off my phone, exhaled, and for the first time in years, the silence felt peaceful.